is up, guys, and welcome to GameBird Weekly, a brand new show on the GameBird Classic channel where we discuss all things gaming. Now, there's no fear, my channel is still centered around Nintendo news, predictions, rumors, and information, but this weekly show is an opportunity for me and my co-host to discuss the industry as a whole, from Nintendo to Sony to Microsoft. And we're starting right now as a pre-recorded show, but eventually we want to jump to doing the show live for you guys at home. But without further ado, let me introduce to you my good friend and co-host, Colin!
What's up, man? Happy to be here.
All right. Awesome, man. I'm happy to have you here, too. How are you doing this week?
Not bad. How are you doing?
Good, good. It's fun to be doing a show together. For you guys who have been following the channel for a long, long time, you might actually recognize Colin from a video. He was the man living in my closet in my return to YouTube video. So he is a legend in the GameBird Classic community. But today we've got an awesome show for you guys. We're going to be covering a few interesting topics today, from is this the best year in gaming? We've had a lot of good years in the past, but this year seems pretty gargantuan. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also be giving our Video Game Award predictions. The Game Awards is just around the corner, so Colin and I will be discussing that, as well as our personal GameBird Classic nominated top 10 games of the year. You excited, Colin?
I am.
All right. Well, let's jump right into our first topic then, I guess. Is this the best year in gaming?
I think that it might be. But first, let's just go over some notable years. All right. So, let's see. So first, one year that I think that both of us really loved was 2017. Notable game releases. We got Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Resident Evil 7, Cuphead, and Persona 5.
Yeah, that was a very special year for sure.
I think up until this point, that was probably one of the best years.
And Switch launch as well, a new console, which is exciting.
Exactly. So in bring it back to the past, 1998, we had Metal Gear Solid, Half-Life, Ocarina of Time, Fallout 2, Resident Evil 2, and StarCraft. Some of those games are near and dear to both our hearts.
Yeah, wow.
Let's see. 2007, Portal, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, not really our thing. Halo 3, World of Warcraft Burning Crusade, Rock Band, and Super Mario Galaxy. Definitely a huge Galaxy fan. Let's see. What else we got? 2001, we had the first Halo, Grand Theft Auto 3, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Metal Gear Solid 2, Devil May Cry, and Final Fantasy X. So that being said, yeah, I definitely think that for me personally, I think this year has been the best year for gaming.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is. I mean, those are definitely some really, really good years, especially, some of the nostalgia with those older games that have had a huge impact on my life and the industry as well. But it's really hard to compete, in my opinion, with the releases that we've had this year. I mean, first party Nintendo this year has been unbelievable. Getting a AAA Legend of Zelda game, getting Mario Wonder, a remake of Super Mario RPG, which whoever thought we'd get that. We also got some of the smaller titles, but ones that I really love, like Pikmin 4. And then outside of that, some of the really cool third-party stuff we got this year. If you're a Souls fan, we got Remnant 2, we got Lies of P, we got Lords of the Fallen. I know that one not so much of a popular release, but still some cool third-party stuff. We got Alan Wake 2, we got freaking Metroid Prime remaster that's one of the highest rated games of the entire year, as well as a remake of Resident Evil 4. So yeah, it's. I didn't even mention Baldur's Gate 3 yet, which is quite
Yeah.
possibly the game of the generation if it's not Tears of the Kingdom. So it is. It's hard to say that this isn't the year when on all fronts, and you could look at the hardware side of it too. PlayStation released the PlayStation Portal, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's new stuff coming from Sony. We got Starfield from Microsoft, as well as the official acquisition of Activision from them. So exciting things coming down the line from Microsoft. But I mean, what are your thoughts on those titles and stuff and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said. I mean, we got a sequel to Diablo this year, and it's not even on my personal top 10, whereas like any other year it probably would have been.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, I mean, we got a smaller Assassin's Creed game, we
Mm-hmm.
got an amazing Mortal Kombat game, Jedi Survivor,
Yeah, see,
and
you're listing all this stuff that I couldn't even think of off the cuff because there's so much stuff this year.
yeah, the list goes on and on. It's just been a crazy year for games. Um, but on the flip side, we'll probably get into this in a further episode down the road, but it has not been a great year for the gaming industry, and I
Mm,
think I speak for both of us when I say our hearts go out to the people that have lost jobs and have been laid
mm.
off because of bad business decisions made this year,
Yeah.
particularly the full tilt into games of service,
Yeah,
which
it's definitely a tough pill to swallow when you see a lot of these companies turning over record profits while simultaneously cutting their studios in half. It's really sad to see. So
yeah,
I'm glad you made mention of that. So yeah, great year for games. Maybe not the best year for the industry, and that's ignoring like predatory microtransactions and all that fun little shop stuff that eats away at our wallets and rots
yeah,
rots the industry, in my opinion. Um,
definitely.
but no, I mean, yeah, from a gaming perspective, I mean, you listed off a bunch of other games. I'd like to. I just thought of this, but there's also been a lot of really good indie stuff this year. I know for me personally, Sea of Stars was one of the highlights of the year. I know you were playing for a while a bunch of Dave the Diver. So like the indie scene, a lot of the games, at least on OpenCritic, that are up in the 90s and above, are actually indie games that probably aren't getting enough. Well, I know Dave the Diver and Sea of Stars are, but there's some other ones. I don't know if you know off the top of your head. There was a few others that did really
Yeah,
well.
there's one in particular that I really enjoy called Paranormasight.
Mm,
Uh, it's like a cool little visual novel with like really cool puzzles and a really cool like 90s looking aesthetic.
sure.
Didn't get enough of it. It was a fun little 5 hour game. I'm trying to think of any other indies that I played this year. Yeah, Dave the Diver was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
I guess we'll discuss later on if that deserves to be an indie game. But
Sure, for
yeah,
sure.
we can get
Yeah,
into that.
I know you and I have some thoughts when it comes to some of the nominations for some of the categories. So that'll be fun for sure to talk about when we get there.
And then
Um,
there was another little smaller indie game that made a resurgence this year. I don't know if you heard of it, Cyberpunk 2077.
oh man, no, I believe I did hear about that.
Yeah, they released a DLC expansion. Really good game.
Mm,
Definitely not an indie game, but still,
right.
we mentioned at the top of the show, and that was another big surprise this year.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cool to see like we talk about layoffs and bad company decisions within the industry. It's really cool to see a rise from ruins story with CD Projekt Red. That whole debacle when Cyberpunk launched in the state that it did, that it was really like a broken, unfinished game, and how the tables have turned. And it was really sad to see devs taking a lot of the flack for that when it's obviously suits at the top pushing for a date when a game's not ready. But super stoked for that team and that company to kind of pull out of that and put out a DLC content that, people are talking about as game of the year content,
Yeah, it was an amazing comeback for sure. Um,
And I'm hoping that talent pours into the next Witcher game as well.
yeah, and all their future games. I think they are working on another Cyberpunk game as well, so
Hmm.
looking forward to that in the future. I mean, this resurgence has definitely made me excited for more Cyberpunk content.
Right.
Yeah.
And going back to best year in gaming, though, like outside of the software, I feel like this has been a good year for announcements too from companies, stuff that just got teased or announced this year. I know there's a lot of good projects on the horizon from Microsoft. Microsoft, the Xbox is something that I'm personally rooting for, and it's funny because I've actually never been an Xbox fan through my gaming life until this generation. But that's because, well, I think Phil Spencer is a cool dude, but I also love how consumer friendly Game Pass has been, and kind of the push and the drive towards Game Pass and a lot of the exciting experiences that are coming day one to that, and a lot of the games that we can expect down the road from that from Microsoft. Um, so obviously their content has been super light this year, but this year, as far as like a Game Pass player, it's been a very awesome experience. And I'm just really excited with the announcements that they have given what's coming next year for the service.
Absolutely. Games like Avowed, Fable, Clockwork Revolution was another one that
Mm-hmm.
looked really cool. I think next year is definitely going to be a year for Xbox.
Sure.
Um, I think it's a bummer that Starfield was such a divisive title. I definitely, uh, I definitely enjoyed it. I liked it for what it
Mm-hmm.
was, but I mean, being released after Baldur's Gate 3 did not do it any service. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
but
I mean, people are talking about online. I think Sega just came out and said that the sales for the new Sonic game disappointed. It released within the same window of a new Mario side-scrolling game. It's a not to say that Sonic should be this gangbuster seller, but releasing within the same window of a 2D platformer and a mascot that stood the test of time is it's a tough one.
just to highlight like how insane this year has been, like we got two of the biggest RPGs in existence released one after another, not to mention like a couple months after Tears of the Kingdom, which
Sure.
is just a masterpiece and a marvel. And then not only that, but yeah, not just a Mario game, but a Sonic game. I mean,
Right.
yes, Sonic has definitely, fallen from the limelight over the years, but like gosh, it just reminds you of like old times when those two were direct competitors. So it's just been a really cool year for the
Right.
amount of games.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of those weird years where like usually there's like little lull periods where it's like maybe you can dive into your back catalog because you have like 2 months and nothing really that exciting is coming in within a 2 or 3 month period, and you'll get like a couple of those in the year. This year it was like my back catalog is growing by the day, and they need to slow down because I don't have time to play everything that's coming out. At least for me, that's how this year was.
absolutely. I mean, I feel like this is the first game that not first game, first year that I can remember like not touching all of the Game of the Year
Sure.
nominees for at least a few hours. Yeah, sorry, Spider-Man, and sorry, Alan Wake 2. I want to get around to those ones, but yeah, I didn't get to try those. And yeah, it's just insane. My back catalog is just
Right.
right now.
So I wanna make a point to say, and then I have a question for you before we go on to our next topic. But um, I grew up since the very beginning. Nintendo was my first console. Hardcore Nintendo fan. Uh, I've been a huge Sony fan with the PlayStation since the PS1. I got one within its launch year, and I've been a fan ever since. But I gotta say, if I had to pick one company that didn't knock it out of the park this year, for me personally, it would be Sony. For reasons that, like, uh, not to knock Spider Man, I'm super excited to play Spider Man 2, and I've heard wonderful things about it. But for just the lack of big first party releases, as well as for me the PlayStation Portal is such an odd niche device that has such a huge barrier of entry that like I I struggle to grasp who is this for and why when there's so many big gaps in first party software, as well as like the lack of a reason that Sony's given us to pick up PSVR 2. Another extremely expensive device with a huge barrier of entry that for me, like Sony released it and then just hasn't done much to be like, hey, you need a PSVR 2 and here's why. I know I love my PS5 as far as like being a high performance console. I love the DualSense controller, even though it has the worst battery life of anything I've touched this generation. Cannot stand that battery. I love the controller. It feels good. It feels like it's built well. I love the HD or not the H. Pardon me, not the HD Rumble, the DualSense technology. And I love everything about that controller. So it's a bummer. I know we got Armored Core. Oh wait, Armored Core's not even first party, is it?
It is not.
What
Yes.
what other than Spider-Man 2 did Sony release first party this year? Big experiences.
I am struggling to think of anything else.
Yeah,
Uh,
see, this is my point. Of course, they're they've got great third party stuff on their console. They have. I'm super excited for Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth next year, early next year. So that's going to be a reason to be excited as a Sony console owner. But yeah, this year just I know their consoles are selling really well, but for me as a fan, there just wasn't much there for me to feel like thank God I have a PS5.
I I'm in almost 100% agreement. I do think that the Portal was kind of a misstep, especially in years where we just got um we got the Steam Deck in late last year,
Mm,
and then we just got the Steam Deck OLED, and then also the Asus, I think it's called the ROG Ally, if I'm not
mm,
mistaken. And like they have shown that you can make a premium handheld console that will run, like high def games without
right,
having to stream them. So it does feel like a very niche item. I mean, I have listened to some reviewers and people that have the use case really seem to enjoy it. But yeah, I just don't see it. It just seems like something that
right.
they brought out to garner some attention. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm one of the 5 people that owns PSVR 2. Um, I did get to try Resident Evil Village VR, and I will say, like, it's a really cool experience. And I do think that,
Mm,
like, at least Capcom is dedicated. I know we've got Resident Evil 4 VR coming, I think, early next year, if I'm not mistaken, which is really cool. But yeah, where are the games? Like,
yeah,
and then not to mention, yeah, just some of the decisions that we'll probably go in more in depth on in a later episode. Just the commitment to games of service, just
yeah.
it, uh, yeah,
It stings.
it it stings and it seems tone deaf. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, because I mean, they brought in Bungie this year to kind of work on these games of service titles for them, and they're laying people off from Bungie. Yeah,
right,
it's just not a good look, and that PlayStation Showcase did nothing to make me feel like I'm excited to have this console.
right.
We'll probably get tons of good third-party games, which I'm excited for, but I mean, you know, it doesn't sell me on it over the Xbox. And I've never been like you, never been like a huge Xbox fan, but I will say they've made more consumer friendly decisions as of late. Even with some
Sure.
of those crazy emails. this year.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I still think that like Game Pass is just the best deal in town, and
Right.
it if someone, someone who's not super into gaming were to ask me which console they should pick up, I'd probably recommend the Xbox just for the deal that is Game Pass. So,
Sure. Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. I definitely feel you there. So, before we move on, real quick, I do want to ask you a question, and that is, do you think next year has the ability to match or top this year? Or is there really no competing because we got such a huge load of great software that we're kind of going to be in that, you know, turning point where things are back in development again?
Objectively, like, if we're talking just like the amount of like games that have just transcended, like, like have been all over TikTok, YouTube, all this stuff, like, no, I do not think that. But like subjectively, for me, I'm a huge RPG player, and like next year, just like the first 2 or 3 months alone
Mm,
is stacked with RPGs. We're getting Persona 3 Reloaded. We're getting Final Fantasy 7 with Rebirth? Rebirth? No, not
rebirth.
Rebirth. Oh yeah, it is Rebirth. We're I know they're working on the Metaphor ReFantasia. There's just so many games in the pipeline as far as like JRPGs that like gets me super excited. But I can completely understand if like, you know, other people aren't like this is an all-timer year. But for me, I think that next year has the ability to be a crazy year, especially if like Nintendo has some release games under its sleeve,
Sure.
with a new console that is heavily rumored to be coming next year. So
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I think objectively it's going to be highly unlikely or extremely difficult to top this year. I mean, this year was madness. So I just don't see how it's possible. However, with that being said, as a Nintendo fan first, um, I am extremely excited for the potential of what next year could mean for Nintendo fans. Like you said, there is a Switch successor. A lot of people are calling it Switch 2 right now. I don't think that's going to be the name of the console, but for now, the Switch successor, whatever that is or will be, it's highly likely that that's going to launch sometime next year. Nintendo learned with the Switch the power in launching a piece of hardware with a killer IP. And I think they're going to want to do that again. And there are a lot of cool prospects for what could be launching in that first window. We've got even though we just got Mario Wonder, we have the prospect of what's the 3D Mario team been working on? What's the successor to Mario Odyssey? Could we possibly get some sort of Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom style Mario where you're running around this huge open world Mushroom Kingdom 3D platformer? Could it be a new Mario Kart 9 or 10 or whatever they call it? I'm not sure if Mario Kart Tour counts for Nintendo as Mario Kart 9, so it could be MK10 or a new name like how they named Double Dash. But the DLC finally ended for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I assume that that DLC team was separate and the Mario Kart team is working on something special. I mean, that would be probably the biggest thing that they could do within the launch window. Um, but also Metroid Prime 4. Where is that game? Is it still real? If it is real, I know that's not the killer app to sell Switch 2s, but it would be cool as a cross gen title that launches as like kind of the send off for the Switch, but also one of the launch titles for the Switch 2. Something to really show off the new hardware, what this console is capable of visually.
yeah, I definitely could see that. I think, yeah, I mean, you look back at the GameCube, and Metroid Prime was one of the launch titles for that console, and it wasn't the console seller that you wanted, but you had Mario Sunshine follow up right behind it. And then not to
Right.
mention that Super Smash Brothers Melee. And I just want to highlight that Super Smash Brothers, the newest Super Smash Brothers Ultimate launched in 2017. It's been 6 years since we've had a new Smash game. I mean, Sakurai has said like on multiple occasions that he's, checked out, but you never know. I mean, it's been a like, almost 2 years since that Kirby game launched. So you have to wonder what, him and Hal Laboratory are working on.
Sure.
So I wouldn't be surprised if close by, like close to the launch, that we see something Super Smash Brothers related, even if it's just Ultimate re-released with maybe more characters,
Right.
which would be cool. And then your friend on I think it was kind of funny, your friend Andre Restart talked about how um, there's a chance that we might see maybe like a Zelda remake
Mm.
early on, and it does fit their pattern. So that is one.
Definitely. Definitely, yeah. No, I think you make a really good point about Sakurai too, because he kind of reminds me in some ways of Hideo Kojima, in that Kojima said, like, after every Metal Gear game, this is my last one. I'm done. And then did another one. This time it's actually my last one. And then did another one. So, yeah, I feel like even though Sakurai says he's done, at some capacity, he would still have his hands on the Smash development, whether he's just overseeing or whatever that is. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see, they could upres and port Smash Ultimate. I'd really love to see them do that actually, because I don't want to lose any of those characters. But I'd like to see them bring
No,
in
no,
with that some sort of subspace.
there we go. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Some sort
Okay.
of subspace emissary, or some of the extra modes that we used to have that haven't been around for a while, like target practice, or I forget what it was called, the one in Melee where it's all the little polygonal characters dropping down and you can set it to like 100 or 500.
I think it's 100-man melee.
100-man melee. There you go. Yeah, like target practice, 100-man melee. Throw in a new version of the subspace single player mode with cinematics and a story. Like, I think that stuff would go a long way. And a great example of that is even if they decided to reboot the series
Mhm.
and start with a smaller roster, I'd like to use Mortal Kombat as an example, because Mortal Kombat basically did their Smash Ultimate during the Wii era with Mortal Kombat Armageddon, where they're like, okay, it's everyone that's ever been in Mortal Kombat. And then they came back with MK9, smaller roster, but like, hey, we're emphasizing on story development and characters now, and it crushed. And that has set the tone for all Mortal Kombat games since going forward. So I think a rad story mode would be really cool. I think fans would really like it. It's very rare that I meet someone who says they don't like Subspace Emissary.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, it would be really cool if they follow the GameCube launch.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I don't know, Princess Peach is like a launch title for it. The new Super Smash Brothers like a couple months later, and then the Metroid Prime 4. It would be
Right.
incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
Be sick.
but I mean, my money is on a 3D Super Mario
For
because
sure.
it's a while. So
All
yeah.
right. Well, before we get way too off topic, I want to jump into the next topic, which is going to be the Game Award predictions from you and I.
All right. So for the sake of just focusing on strictly the games and the fact that you and I don't know anything about esports, so we're not even going to pretend to guess on esports event, esports coach, esports team, esports athlete, esports game, and content creator of the year. Good luck to all the people in those categories, but yeah, we're not going to cover that.
Right on.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with most anticipated game, and I'll go ahead and read off the nominees. We've got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades 2, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaw, and Tekken 8.
Hmm. So this is
So,
going to be our predictions for what we think is going to win. My my vote's
knowing
going.
that, but also who you want to win. We can.
Man, um, I'm gonna put my vote for both. It's tough. There are two games on this list that are there's three games on this list that I want to win, but I think my vote's gonna go to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It looks absolutely amazing. It's the game looks gorgeous. It's super ambitious in the way that they're redoing a PS1 classic. I think that's going to get my vote for both, but it's tough because I am extremely excited for Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. That game looks amazing to me. And also a huge shout out to Star Wars Outlaws. I'm a big Star Wars fan. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff that I don't like, but this looks like one of those things that I just hope they knock it out of the park. What about you?
So for me, so at the top of the show, I talked about how much I like JRPGs, and I completely missed Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth when talking about that. So another amazing game coming next year. Um, so for me, the one I want, I mean, the one I'm most anticipating is Star Wars Outlaws, and I
Mm,
do think Star Wars Outlaws is going to take this one. Um, I think that I'm really excited for both of these games, but they're just so close that it's
mm-hmm.
hard to think about being like super ecstatic when I haven't even played some of the Game of the Year games. Star Wars Outlaw, the release date's a little bit more nebulous, and I think it's got the whole Star Wars name behind it. So
Sure.
I think it's gonna win. And for me, I like after playing Jedi Survivor this year, like I can't wait to hop into some more Star Wars games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good pick. I think that, um, man, you know, Hades, it's awesome. Everyone loves Hades, but it is an indie game. I know as popular as Hades is, it's probably not getting the attention of most anticipated in the way that, maybe Ubisoft's Star Wars breakthrough game is going to get, or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But I get why it's there. Like a Dragon is an interesting one because this is one that I wouldn't imagine being in this category, but I'm absolutely stoked that it is. And I'd be really happy if this was a surprise win for the category. If you guys haven't played the Yakuza series and you like kind of classic beat 'em up games, with open world kind of elements and mini games and all that fun stuff, Yakuza's like one of the coolest and funniest and weirdest series of all time. Great storytelling too, might I add. But definitely check it out if it interests you in the slightest.
Yeah, and I would have to say that if you are not as interested as the beat 'em up and you just want a good jumping off point, the Like a Dragon games, so
Mm-hmm.
Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth are not super tied to the main story of the Yakuza series. So, yeah, the original Like a Dragon, Yakuza 7, you could jump straight in from there if you just want to play the turn-based version. And if you're more interested, if you're like, hey, there's 6 game or 7 games in the series if you count Yakuza Zero, the Judgment games are amazing as well, and
Mm,
you don't have to have all the knowledge of
right,
everything that happened previously.
right.
But that being said, I think not playing Yakuza Zero is doing yourself a disservice. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend jumping straight in at the prequel if you're
Awesome.
interested in a lot of yeah. Hades 2. Um, this is the first time Supergiant is doing a direct sequel to any of their games, which
Mm-hmm.
is interesting. And um, I love Hades. I'm sure Hades 2 is going to surprise me in the ways that it changes up the formula, but I really like that like Supergiant tries different genres all the time, so I'm not as thrilled for Hades 2 as I
Mm-hmm.
would be like a new game. Um,
Right,
my personal favorite of their games is Pyre because it's just such a weird and interesting game, and the story is just amazing. So I really hope that this isn't Supergiant turning into the Hades mill. So
right. Definitely.
um, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, yeah, I think it speaks for itself. I mean, The remake and the name of the DLC is very
Retrograde? Uh, is it retrograde? Intergrade?
Integrate. There we go.
Intergrade.
Integrate.
Yeah.
Were both amazing and they just delve into the story way more. I'm super excited to see what's happening next. So, yeah. Tekken
All
8,
right.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that really enjoy those games. I'm just more of a Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter guy. So, yeah.
Right. That's the same for me too. Like it's hard for me to comment on Tekken 8. It's not something that I'm personally anticipating. But I'm sure there's going to be people who are very excited for that.
And all due respect to the game. I mean, it's their eighth iteration of the game. It's wildly successful, so I
Right.
wish them the best in this category as well. All right.
All
Anything
right.
else
Next
for
category.
category? All right. Okay. So best adaptation. Our our choices are Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, or Twisted Metal. Cameron, the floor is
So
yours.
okay, so my prediction for what's going to win is The Last of Us. Um, and I say that sadly. I am not a Last of Us fan. Um, and I personally have not watched The Last of Us show, but I know that it does follow very closely to the game that we got. My personal vote goes to the Super Mario Brothers movie. I absolutely love that movie, and I know it wasn't the most intricate and substantive story. However, I feel like as an adaptation goes, the level of Easter eggs that really celebrated Super Mario Brothers from its inception all the way to today was unmatched in anything that I've ever seen before. It was a treat on the eyes. The visuals were unbelievable. I personally feel like they nailed the characters. I felt like that was Mario, that was Luigi, that was Bowser, that was Peach, all that good stuff. Um, and so yeah, while not like a cinematic masterpiece, I feel like that really captured the heart of and spirit of Mario, and it's a unique story. While not the most creative, it was unique as in there's no game that followed the story of this, whereas Last of Us follows the game pretty much. But that's my 2 cents. What about you, Colin?
I completely echo your sentiments. I think that Last of Us is going to take this category. I personally do not like Last of Us either. Um, I think the games are more like movies, so it was already a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think we've seen this style of story done. I watched some of the episode. I think we've seen this style of story done in better formats, or at least formats that I like more, such as Logan. And I think
Sure.
like I find superheroes and stuff a lot more interesting than zombies. That's just
Mm-hmm.
my personal preference. I don't find zombies or virus outbreaks to be very interesting. So I'm just not at all invested in that world.
Right.
And for me, yes, I think the Super Mario Bros. Movie was the best adaptation this year, but I do not think that is what is going to be the voted
Right.
thing. Um, I did not get a chance to check out these other ones, but I heard Twisted Metal surprisingly good. So I do want to
Yep.
check that out down the road.
Yeah. Same as here. I haven't seen the others, but yeah. Good luck to all the nominees. It's gonna be The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Good luck, everyone else.
Yeah.
All right. So on to best multiplayer game.
All right. So for outstanding online multiplayer gameplay and design, including co-op and massive multiplayer experience, irrespective of game genre or platform. Our choices are Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. We'll start with you.
This one's a tough one for me. Except for Party Animals, I don't think. Sorry, Party Animals. I don't think you're gonna be the pick. The other four, however, I think have a good chance. Now, there's an argument to be made that Baldur's is going to sweep everything, so that might be the safe bet. But I think there's a lot of people out there who would argue that Baldur's Gate 3 is at its best when played solo. You have way more control of the experience. You don't feel like you're missing out on any of that experience either. Now, granted, there's obviously fun to be had when you have someone else interacting with NPCs and making decisions that can drastically affect your game. I feel like, for me, I think Diablo 4 is a really good pick. Love it or hate it. As far as a multiplayer game goes, like Diablo 4 works flawlessly as a multiplayer. Same with Street Fighter 6. I feel like, to me, those are the two best predictions. I think there's a good argument for Mario. For me, it's going to be between those two, though. Diablo 4 and Street Fighter 6. I kind of feel like Street Fighter 6 is the safer prediction because I feel like, as far as what they did, has made a bigger splash. I know there's been a lot of negativity surrounding Diablo 4. And, at its core, Street Fighter 6 is purely meant to be played multiplayer. I think my vote's going there. Street Fighter 6. What about you?
Street Fighter 6, that you're locking that in for your vote to win?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win this category.
Mm.
Personally, though, when I look at best multiplayer, like you said, I think, does the multiplayer enhance the experience for Baldur's Gate 3? I am an emphatic no. Um,
Mm.
I enjoyed playing multiplayer, and it is one of the best multiplayer experiences I've had this year,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think the multiplayer was better than the single player experience. So I can't like bring it to be my personal vote.
Right.
Um, Diablo 4 was great. I did enjoy playing multiplayer with everyone. But I'm gonna pick an odd one for my personal pick. I think that the multiplayer in Super Mario Bros. Wonder is so unique and like really cool. It almost was like their take on like a Souls-like experience, you know? um you just had people that were around that could like help you drop things, and I feel like it really like made the experience more of like a shared experience without dealing with all the issues that come with multiplayer.
Right.
um so not to mention, there is a level in Super Mario Bros. Wonder that is just insanely hard. People who've played it and have gotten to that level know exactly what I'm talking about. And I do not think I would have made it past that level if it weren't for the help of other people dropping signs, popping my bubble when I died. So I
Right.
am going to go with Bros. Wonder for my personal pick. And then for what I think is going to win, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win.
Right. Yeah. I actually want to echo that. I did not pick my personal pick. I gave my prediction for Street Fighter. My personal pick is Mario Wonder as well. I've played it with family, and it's a blast. Local multiplayer with 4 players. It was so much fun. And like you said, Colin, doing some of the online stuff, creating checkpoints, bringing people back, giving people power ups. It's just such a unique twist on multiplayer, and you can combine those online elements with the local elements, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and just to echo my sentiment about Baldur's Gate 3, like the fact that that game even works multiplayer as well as it does is just insane. So, yeah, I do think it's going to win that category.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Next up.
Next up, we've got best sports racing, our favorite category.
Well,
All right.
I can tell you all right now. I haven't played any of these games, so I'm just gonna go real simple. My prediction for what's gonna win is Forza Motorsport. My personal preference, even though I've played none of these, is Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Supercharged because it looks fun, and
All
that's it.
right. This will be the third time that we have different predictions.
Mm.
I think EA Sports FC 24 is going to win this category. I've heard a lot of good things about this one from people that like these type of games. I'm
Hmm.
not one of those people, but like I think this is, if you don't hear any complaints about an annual installment game, that's a pretty good sign. And they lost the FIFA license this year, and they managed to, carry it forward with FC 24. I think is a testament to the fact that like they were able to change it up this year. So I think that FC 24 is going to win. Yeah, if I had to play one of these games, it would definitely be Hot Wheels.
All
So
right.
that would be my personal pick as well. So I'll go ahead and lock those in.
All right.
See,
And then
20.
next up, we have best sim slash strategy game.
All right, so we've got Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, City Skylines 2, Company of Heroes 3, Fire Emblem Engage, and Pikmin 4.
This one's very easy for me. It's both my prediction and my personal pick, and that's going to be Pikmin 4.
Of course.
Um, Advance Wars, awesome. Fire Emblem Engage, while most people revere it as a pretty good Fire Emblem game, I think it's definitely didn't take the world by storm in the way that Three Houses did, and I not to knock it, I know the gameplay and it was rad. I don't think it's gonna win.
I agree with you. I think Pikmin 4 is going to take this one. I think this is the first snub I need to call out.
Mm,
There was a game released earlier this year that I just started playing the other night, and I'm absolutely addicted to. It's called Age of Wonders 4.
mm,
Um, I think that Age of Wonders 4 should have easily been in this category over something like City Skylines 2, or
sure.
even I I love that Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot camps here, but it's, it's a it's a remaster, so I think that they should have put Age of Wonders 4 in this category. It's one of the best 4X games I've played in a long time. You know, I think it holds up against Civilization for the overworld gameplay, and then I think it does hold up to like Heroes of Might and Magic, like the best Heroes of Might and Magic games when it comes to the combat. So yeah, but I do think that Pikmin 4 is going to win this as well. And then my personal choice out of this list, I did like Fire Emblem Engage. It's no Fire Emblem Three Houses, but beggars can't be choosers. It was awesome that we got a Fire Emblem game this year.
Hmm.
Another game we didn't mention at the top of the show, where like I feel like this game could have easily been in like my top 10, but it didn't even
Sure.
scratch the surface. So, all
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Anything else to say about any of the
No.
other? All
Off
right.
to best family game.
Best family game. So we've got Disney Illusion Island, Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
My pick for this, my prediction and my pick is gonna be Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Um, I actually might like for. I think I like just as my personal preference as a game. I think I would personally rate Pikmin 4 higher than Mario Brothers Wonder, but as a family game, it's like I said earlier when we were talking about multiplayer category. Playing Mario Bros. Wonder with family is so much fun. And I know Disney Illusion Island is one of those games where you could do the same, and a lot of people really love that game. So that's probably a pretty good contender. But since Mario Bros. Wonder is nominated as one of the Game of the Years this year and one of the highest rated games of the year, I think it's a safe prediction for me that Mario Bros. Wonder is going to take it,
Hmm.
and it's my pick.
All right. See, I think I differ a little here.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna go Sonic.
Mm.
I'm just messing around. I don't
Okay,
think Sonic's gonna win.
I was like, this is going to be interesting. Let's hear it.
No, I do think Super Mario Bros. Wonder best fits this category. I do think it's going to win this category.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it is my personal pick. I think Pikmin is one of those blind spots for me.
Sure.
I do need to sit down one day and play through all the games, considering now that like Nintendo has made it possible for me to play almost all the
Right.
games on my Switch. So like I really have no excuse. It's just one of those games that like I just missed the boat on. But
Sure. Well,
it seems like 4 is a good place as any to start off.
Yeah, I'd argue it's probably the best. It's definitely, in my opinion, the least, or not the least, the most forgiving of the series. And you're a huge RPG fan. This is the one that introduced kind of an RPG leveling up gear system, enhancing your abilities, unlocking new abilities. So I think there's a lot to love in this game that suits some of your gaming preferences in a ways that maybe the previous Pikmins didn't. But all
Definitely.
right.
All
Next
right.
next
Next category,
category, best fighting game.
best fighting game. All right, we've got God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6.
Um three okay, I have two blind spots, Pocket Bravery and God of Rock. Ignoring those two, sorry guys. Three excellent fighting games that I for sure know of this year. Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. I think Street Fighter 6 takes the cake, just based off of their critic reception of the game, and being like, I don't know, people love Street Fighter 6. I think it's a home run for that game. My personal pick is Mortal Kombat 1. Um, I didn't enjoy Street Fighter 6 as much as everyone else did, but Mortal Kombat 1, I absolutely love that game. The story mode, we actually played through it together in one sitting. Just glued to the TV and having so much fun swapping between the different cameo fighters and really great all star lineup that this one had. So for me, that's my personal pick.
I'm in complete 100% agreement with you. I think Street Fighter 6 is going to win this one just because, like the whole Evo scene and this one just being having like a lot of really cool features for the multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I am a single player person. So yeah, Mortal Kombat 1 absolutely is my personal choice. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think the game was incredible. I love the story. Um, I even like playing around in like the seasonal content. I love all the free stuff. I think, unfortunately, Mortal Kombat has kind of a little, controversy with the Switch version. And unfortunately, I think, a lot of review sites are taking that into consideration when
Sure.
choosing. Um, God of Rock, I have to say this like the poster for it looks really cool. I have no
Yeah.
idea what it is, but I'm definitely going to have to look this up
Right.
afterwards. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. Um, awesome comeback story. I know that the first one was met with like a lot of mixed reviews because of,
Mm-hmm.
no voice actors and, some of the other criticisms
Mm-hmm.
that people had. And it seems like they took the Smash formula and changed it in a way to where the game feels new and exciting.
Right.
Um, I've heard nothing but glowing things about this. Yeah, so I definitely need to give props to that. Pocket Bravery, I have no idea what this is. It looks like it might be a cell phone game, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I'll
Mm-hmm.
definitely look into this one too, because yeah, moving on.
Moving on.
All right, best RPG. For the best game design with rich player character customization, progression, included massive multiplayer experiences. Our nominees are Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield.
Mm. This one's easy. Baldur's Gate 3 and Baldur's Gate 3. Final Fantasy 16, you ain't an RPG. Sorry, brother, you ain't an RPG. You're you're an action game with extremely light RPG elements. And Lies of P is another one where it's like I think there's a better argument for Lies of P being an RPG than Final Fantasy 16. But again, I would put these in the Game Awards needs a action RPG category desperately, because with these nominations, we're snubbing games like Octopath Traveler 2 that wholeheartedly deserve to be nominated. I feel like there's another one. Colin, maybe you could help me out. Or
Trails into Reverie is
yeah,
another one.
Trails. Yeah, that's
Uh,
a huge series.
yeah,
So yeah, Sea of Stars is actually one of my favorite games of this year. I absolutely love it. Starfield, I've barely started that game. It didn't quite hook me from the start, but I do want to go through and finish it and experience a sci-fi RPG. I'm sure the game deserves the nomination. It's just Liza P and Final Fantasy 16 are kind of the question marks, but easily without a doubt, Baldur's Gate 3 all the way for both of those.
yeah, I feel the same way. Baldur's Gate 3 is my
Mm-hmm.
RPG of the year, and it deserves to win this category. Final Fantasy 16 combat system aside,
Right.
I have so many complaints about this game. I'm sure I can get into it in a different video if people want to hear my thoughts. Um, I think the story is doo-doo. Um, yeah,
We'll
Liza
have
P,
well, we're gonna have some hot take segments on the show in the
yes,
future.
definitely. Liza P is, yeah, I do think that there is a strong argument to make that like there should be an action RPG category
Right.
because yeah, I feel like Cyberpunk was snubbed from this category
Right.
as well, especially if like a game like Starfield's in the running. Starfield did so
Mm-hmm.
many things really amazingly, and then so many things just
Right.
hated. And it's such a bummer because I wish more people would play through that game, get to the new game plus, see how interesting the story unfolds. Um, but yeah, it is just unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to take anything this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I think it's one of those games that's only going to get better with time, with mods, with
Right.
community support. So
Right.
yeah, but yeah, Baldur's Gate 3.
Excellent. All
All
right.
right.
Next category. We've got best action adventure game.
All right. So for our nominees are Alan Wake 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2, more of an RPG than Final Fantasy 16, Resident Evil 4, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Yep.
I think where you're going with this one.
My prediction and my pick is going to be
Is
The Legend of
Alan Wake
Zelda.
2. Oh,
No, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
okay. I was so
Um,
close.
a game of the generation, I really believe. It's crazy because I do think BG3 is going to take a lot of the awards at this show, and I don't think one of the other game is any more deserving. I think they're both. Whoever wins Game of the Year this year, they're both so equally deserving. But I think specifically for this category, and I'll say right now, I'm extremely excited to play Alan Wake 2. I have not touched it. It looks amazing. I loved the first game. I enjoyed what I played of the DLC in Control. So I'm sure that game's every bit as deserving. Same with Spider-Man 2. RE4, it's RE4. It's great. It's a remake. Jedi Survivor, another one. Beautiful game. Great Star Wars story. Very deserving. But Tears of the Kingdom is one of those games people are going to be talking about for the next 10 years. And companies are going to be trying to emulate for the next 10 years. So that gets my pick on both fronts.
Yeah. Um, yeah, absolutely. Tears of the Kingdom. It's this is their category to lose, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we pretend that Baldur's Gate 3 didn't release this year and you told me these were the Game of the Year nominees, I'd be like, "Yep, that makes sense. These are
Mm-hmm.
all incredible games." I cannot wait to play Alan Wake 2. Marvel Spider-Man 2 looks amazing as well.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love Jedi Survivor and Resident Evil 4. I mean it plays like a more polished version of RE2 Remake, which is already like an all-timer. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, unfortunately those four games are in the same category as Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
Um, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom absolutely incredible. Modern Marvel, technical masterpiece. I think it absolutely deserves to win this category. So Yeah.
Awesome. All right, next category. And I
Best
apologize. There is a car alarm going off outside, so if it picks up, I'm not sure if the mic's picking it up, but if you guys hear it at home, I apologize. It just stopped.
best action game.
All right.
We got Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2.
All right. I think Armored Core 6 is going to win this category. Um, I love From Software and From Software games. The Soul series is my second favorite series of all time, uh, just after The Legend of Zelda. So I cannot wait to get my hands on this game. I think it's going to win, but my personal pick is actually Remnant 2. Um, I love the game. It's awesome. It's a online multiplayer Souls-like with randomly generated worlds. It's got all the storyline. It's got sick gear for you to collect and find, classes to unlock. I love the game.
Yep. I'm in agreement with you. I do think Armored Core 6 is going to win this one. I did play quite a bit of Armored Core 6 this year. I think it's another Sekiro for me. Like, not quite what I want from FromSoft, but I'm super happy it exists for people that
Mm-hmm.
are fans of these types of games. Dead Island 2, I don't know why it's here. Um, yeah, like I feel like maybe Final Fantasy 16 should have been in this category. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ghost Runner 2, I hear isn't quite the surprise that Ghost Runner, the first Ghost Runner was. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, Hi-Fi Rush, what like an awesome story for,
Yeah.
a game that was shadow dropped and, is almost like an indie-sized budget. Super cool to see. But yeah, Remnant 2 was definitely my favorite game in this category as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've had so much fun playing it online. In fact, if it were best multiplayer, it probably would have gotten my vote.
Sure.
Um, Not only that, but um, it just goes to show you how ridiculous some of these categories are. That Remnant 2, which is like a third person shooter Souls like,
Mm-hmm.
is in this category, and Liza P, a third person Souls like, is in best RPG.
Right.
So, like little inconsistent here.
Yeah.
Um, I would
That's why
love to.
they need that best action RPG category. That what solves the problem right there.
Absolutely. I would really love to talk to people that voted for Dead Island 2 from review outlets, like for best action game. Just seems a little
Mm-hmm.
crazy to me, but what do I know? All right.
All
Next,
right. Next category: best VR/AR
your
game.
favorite.
My favorite.
All right. So we got Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Call of the Mountain, Humanity, Resident Evil Village VR mode, and Synapse.
So this is actually a tough category for me because, well, I'm gonna go ahead right off the bat and say it's definitely not Horizon Call of the Mountain. I don't really know anything about Humanity. The part that's tough is like what's gonna weigh more into the vote, like a game that's specifically designed as a VR game like Synapse, or just an experience on the platform like Ari Village or Gran Turismo. From what I recall, Synapse didn't make as big of a splash as a lot of people hoped or thought that it would, but I know Village and Gran Turismo 7 are supposed to be great.
I can't hear
Oh
you.
man, you can't.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Um, I'm going to man. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Resident Evil Village VR. For both my pick and my prediction, I think it could be Gran Turismo 7. I've heard good things about that, so it's definitely between those two. But I'm just gonna jump on RE Village for both of them.
All right, we're getting a little boring here because we're both agreeing on like almost all of these things. I really liked the Village VR mode. I had a lot of fun with it.
Right.
The played, they definitely added mechanics that felt like a VR game, like the reloading, you had to actually load it up. I mean, you can switch it to just press a button, but I really like that Capcom went above and beyond to make it really, like you're in it. Um,
Right.
Synapse was one that I wanted so badly to be good. I mean, it has the original voice of Solid Snake.
Right.
Um, why is his name eluding me all of a sudden?
David Hayter.
David Hayter, and he it sounded like David Hayter. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish that this game got better reviews. Yeah. Horizon Call of the Mountain. Um, I don't have much to say about that. Gran Turismo 7 is the one that I've debated between, but I do think Village is going to take this, but Gran Turismo 7 is a close second on.
Right.
And then Humanity was the cute game with the dog where you lead the humans around.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
And
Okay.
I think that critically it did really well, but I don't know if there was enough people like, going to bat for humanity.
Mm.
So, but
All
it did
right.
look cool. All right, next category.
Best mobile.
Yay, mobile games. All
Uh,
right.
I'm
Our
gonna go for. I'm gonna vote for both. This is a blind spot for me. I don't play mobile games. I'm gonna double vote Honkai Star Rail. I know the impact that Genshin Impact, no pun intended, made. Um, but Honkai Star Rail looks awesome. It looks more of a me game than Impact. It cool sci-fi with trains traveling galaxies. It's a JRPG instead of an action RPG, turn-based. It looks cool. The characters look cool. Seems like the storyline's interesting. Can't really comment more beyond that, but that gets my vote.
I actually played quite a bit of Honkai Star Rail, and I actually really liked it.
Mm,
I think the gameplay was a lot of fun. I think that like the cash stuff and like the gotcha mechanics weren't as egregious as I thought they were going to be.
mm-hmm.
You could totally play through the game without ever dealing with any of that stuff.
Right,
Um, yeah, and the graphics are beautiful. Be that as it may, I did play it on PC, not on mobile. So, I don't know
right,
how reviewers are grading this. So I don't know if they're just grading it on their mobile version or if like any version counts. Um,
right.
Ever Crisis, I've heard mixed reviews on. Hello Kitty Island Adventure, I'm so glad that this exists. Was it like 10, 15 years after the South Park episode?
Right.
Butters is probably really stoked right now playing Hello Kitty Island
Of
Adventure.
course.
Monster Hunter now, I don't think Niantic is ever going to have that lightning in a bottle again
Mm-hmm.
that they had with Pokemon that they have. I would some would argue have still with Pokemon Go. I think it's foolish of them. They're just splitting their audience at this point with these capture mechanic games.
Yeah.
Um, Terra Nil, this cover looks amazing. It looks like something out of Ghibli. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
Um, but I will probably look it up after if there's some other version to play it. If it's just
Mm-hmm.
like a Ghibli style, like small story mobile game, I might even give it a
Right.
try. Looks cool. All right. But yeah,
All
Honkai I
right.
think is winning this one as well.
All right. Next up, we've got best debut indie game.
Not to be confused
Um,
with indie game.
yes.
So our nominees are Cocoon, Dredge, Pizza Tower, Venba, and Viewfinder.
Again, this one's kind of a blind spot for me. I'm familiar with three of these. Um, I'm going to. I had never heard of Venba or Pizza Tower before these nominees. I'm gonna give my vote for or my prediction to Viewfinder because I know critically it did really well. It's kind of more of the odd game of the bunch. And then I'm going to give my personal vote, even though I've never played this, just based on gameplay footage. It looks the most fun to me. Cocoon.
Okay. Yeah. I I am going to choose Cocoon for my prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I didn't get a chance to play all the any of these games because obviously we had so many like big
Mm.
AAA games, and then my indie my style of indie game is usually visual novels. So um Pizza Tower is another one that I was leaning toward predicting. It looks like the old days of like the Wario style games, and people are saying it's amazing. Vemba is another one that I think could pull it out because
Mm-hmm.
um it's a story told from like a minority's perspective
Mm-hmm.
in the United States. I think, we need more stories like that, and I think it's awesome that there
Sure.
are small companies doing stuff like that. Dredge, I've never heard of. I mean, I've heard people talk about it. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely got a chance. And then Viewfinder, yeah, like I've heard a lot of people say if like there was a category for like best game mechanic, Viewfinder would
Mm-hmm.
definitely be up there. But I think um going into this, I think Cocoon has it. And I know it was like the most talked about indie game at the PAX, and I think another conference. It was like Gamescom or something. But
Right.
yeah, I'm gonna go with Cocoon.
Cool.
Um, Next, best independent game, not to be confused with best debut indie game. Um, so our nominees are Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder.
Well, my prediction would have been Dave the Diver. But there's been a lot of controversy. There's the big argument right now about what does it mean to be an independent game. Um, a lot of people feel Dave the Diver shouldn't be in this category because of the publishing behind it. But I I feel like votes have to already be in. I'm gonna say Dave the Diver takes this if controversy doesn't eliminate it, um, because it made such a splash. My personal vote is gonna be Sea of Stars, though. Again, one of my favorite games of the year.
Sea of Stars is one of those games that I can't believe I haven't played yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm absolutely obsessed with Chrono Trigger. I love those type of games. I think the art style is so cool. I think just the whole conceit of the game looks amazing.
Yep.
Dave the Diver, I did get to dive into a little bit, no pun intended. I really enjoyed Dave the Diver. It's got a lot of the elements that I like in games, like a cool,
Mm-hmm.
unaddicting loop. I mean, I found myself going, just one more run and I'll put the game
Right.
down. Um, yeah, I mean, there is a lot of controversy around the game. Um, I think at this point in time, I think that maybe they just go with the best debut indie game, and then if an indie game's good enough, it makes it into the big leagues or it makes it into some of the other
Mm-hmm.
categories because it's so hard to define at this point. I mean, Cocoon was published by Annapurna. Annapurna has their own showcases now. I mean, are
Yep.
they even indie as much as like they are like double A at this point? And
Right.
I would say like some of their games are like, almost triple A. So
Right. I mean,
I
I that's the thing. Like Sea of Stars, I I know they had big success before with the Messenger, but just a reminder of people: Sea of Stars is a kickstarted game. To me, that's pretty darn indie. But
absolutely. So Sea of Stars is going to be my prediction, and
mm,
Dave the Diver is going to be my personal choice. So the flip of
flip,
what? Yep. All right.
reverse GameBird over here.
Yep. It is a reverse game bird.
All
All right.
right,
Best
next up.
community,
Yep.
best community support. So we've got Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, and No Man's Sky. And just, I'll go ahead and read what it says here. Recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness. inclusiveness of social media activity and game updates slash patches. All right.
Um,
2007.
this is an easy one for me. It's going to be Cyberpunk 2077. It's like we talked about at the beginning of the show how Cyberpunk released in a dumpster fire state. And it's funny because No Man's Sky is nominated in the same category, and they are definitely deserving of it in years past. Because very similarly, they went from being a half baked promise um, that fell short of all expectations to building this really well crafted experience. Cyberpunk is, it's getting a lot of big nominations. It's kind of taken the world by storm from being one of the most disappointing and one of the most hated games out there to now one of the most beloved, and people cannot wait to see what's next for the Cyberpunk series. So without a doubt, I think this one goes to Cyberpunk. And it's my personal pick. I think they deserve it. Good for CD Projekt Red on being transparent, recognizing the issues with the game, and getting this not only to a state that's better and playable, like gamers deserve, but a state that exceeds expectations as well.
Um, I am slightly in agreement with you. Had the votes been today, I think Baldur's Gate 3 would be a slam dunk. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you read about the new patch notes that they just came out
Yes.
with. Yeah, adding that whole epilogue as a thank you to everyone, adding the custom modes, adding the um all the extra stuff that they added is just really cool to see. Um, but I think even though Cyberpunk had it's tough because Cyberpunk did have like their Night City Wires where they went over the new stuff and they've like been very responsive to player feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think I'm still gonna go with Baldur's Gate 3
Mm.
just because Baldur's Gate 3 is one of those like Cinderella stories.
Sure.
Um it's crazy, like they did everything right by the fans like from day one. Uh
Right.
I think this game gestated in early access for a long time, but like it all came together and it was just like perfect on release and they've been nothing but like responsive to fans and updates. I mean,
Right.
there was an issue where they patched something and there was like an issue with the patch and they reverted it like immediately.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I think Baldur's Gate 3 might take this category. So I'm gonna go with Baldur's Gate 3 just so A, um, it's it is like I'm 51% on it, and
Mm-hmm.
B, makes things more interesting and spicy now that we have, you know, some
For
more
sure.
so I'll go BG3.
Awesome.
And personally, I think Cyberpunk 2077 is my personal choice. Just having played that game on launch and having played it now, it's almost unrecognizable, like how different the game is.
Right.
So, yeah. All right.
All
Best
right. Next
onward,
up.
the Final Fantasy 14 award. Um, Awarded to game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time. Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact. I'll let you start it off.
Mm, I'm thinking on this one for a second. Boy. I mean, I think that it's going to come down to whether or not it's going to be FF14 or Cyberpunk. Um, I normally I would give it to FF14 every time. I think I'm going to double vote Cyberpunk again for this category. Just because it's such a rise from ruin story, rags to riches type of story. There was a lot of hurdles. There was a very dark period for CD Projekt Red fans for a while now, but they've fully delivered. They've delivered from what a lot of people would consider garbage to 10 out of 10. So I'm gonna double pick Cyberpunk again.
Nice. And that would definitely be my personal pick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my 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 gut is telling me, despite the fact that another hot take here, I do not like Final Fantasy 14. I do not find it to be a fun MMO. I have continuously played until like people keep telling me it gets better, and like 60 hours in, and I'm still like, this is not fun. Um,
Right.
I do think it's going to win this category. Um, it just seems like review sites love Final Fantasy 14. I think that if this were a fan vote, I think Genshin Impact might have taken it. I know Genshin Impact is like one of those games that just I'm completely blind to it, but like it just seems to sweep in these kind of like fan vote type of things. So, but I am going to go with my gut and say it's Final Fantasy 14 and my personal pick, Cyberpunk 2077.
Awesome.
All
Next
right.
category up is games for impact. Um,
This is another one that I don't think either of us have too much to say about, but we'll go ahead and cast the vote. We got Space for the Unbound, Chance of Sonar, Goodbye Volcano High, Chia, Terra Nil, and Vemba.
uh, yeah, I'll be honest. I had not heard of any of these games before. Um, so I am going to. This is kind of a throwaway vote. Yeah, huge shout out to all these games nominated, and sorry that I'm unfamiliar. I'm gonna throw my vote at A Space for the Unbound, only because I like the thumbnail for it. So it's a very shallow reason, but that's why I picked it.
Fair enough. Yeah, that thumbnail is cool looking. The one game that I do have some inkling on, that like I've, watched a few videos, is Chance of Sonar, and it definitely looks like the type of game that would do really well. I know it's based on kind of more like learning languages, like you learn like a fake language, and as you
Mm,
continue through the game, you translate more of this like runic script.
mm,
Um, and then it also has like it has really strong journey vibes,
mm.
um, so I think that this one's got the chance to win. Once again, Terra Nil looks, I mean, that picture
Yeah.
looks really cool. Vemba, I've heard lots of nice things about. Chia looked, it looked like Wind Waker without any of the fun. Sorry. Goodbye Volcano High, uh, completely off my radar. I mean, I know that it's about a bunch of like dinosaurs or like prehistoric things like before like the mass extinction. So I'm sure there's lots of feels in that game. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Chance of Sonar.
Awesome.
All right. Next category. Innovation and accessibility. Recognize software and or hardware that is pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by an even wider audience. We've got Diablo 4, Forza Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Mortal Kombat 1, Street Fighter 6. I just want to go ahead and say, like, I think it's really cool that this is a big initiative in gaming. Um, but as I am not disabled, I don't really know which one is doing the best in this regard. But I think it's amazing that they're doing it. So I'll go ahead and kick it off to you.
I'm going to. I'm in the same place. I am not familiar with the areas of accessibility that these games are taking advantage of to help out gamers. I'm going to kind of choose randomly, but with purpose. I'm going to pick Hi-Fi Rush for this one, because Hi-Fi Rush is, first off, it's a phenomenal game. Play it if you haven't played it. Um, it's an action game that's rhythm based, and when you attack on beat, you do more damage. You do like critical strikes, and you can combo on beat. What's really cool about this game is that it's not just cued by audio. The level moves to the beat of the music. So if you're deaf, you can still play the game and be on rhythm by watching the cues. Your health bar will pulse to the beat. The signs will move to the beat. So it's one of those things where you can, if you have challenges with seeing, you could play based on hearing. If you have challenges with hearing, you could play based on seeing. So that's my pick.
I think I'm gonna go with the same pick, Hi-Fi Rush, for all the reasons you just said. And
Mm-hmm.
if we have any listeners that do have disabilities, sound off in the comments. Like what
Of course,
these companies are doing. We'd love to hear and highlight some of those things because I think that's a great initiative. I think we both do. So, yeah,
totally. All right.
moving on to our next category, best performance. All right. So we've got Ben Starr for Clive in Final Fantasy 16, Cameron Monaghan for what's his name in Star Wars?
Um, Cal Kestis.
There we go. Cal Kestis. Idris Elba plays Idris Elba in Cyberpunk 2077. Uh, Melanie LeBird is what was her name? Echo. I forget the name of the character. Um, I wish they would say these on the nominees. And Alan Wake 2, the main female protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember her name. Neil Newborn, who plays Asterion in Baldur's Gate 3, and Yuri Lowenthal, who plays Peter Parker in Marvel Spider-Man 2. Also a spoilery Spider-Man. Yeah. Peter Parker is
No
Spider-Man.
spoilers, Colin. All right, my vote's gonna go to Neil Newborn, Baldur's Gate 3 as Asterion. Um, from my time with Baldur's Gate, phenomenal performance, phenomenal voice work, but I also like understand the depth of that story and the outcome. So there was a lot demanded of the actors in that game. So that's my pick. But I will add this: a lot of great picks this year. I know a lot of people really love Ben Starr as Clive. A lot of people are rooting for him. Obviously, Cameron Mahonigan is phenomenal as Cal Kestis. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Neil Newbin.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that statement. I think Neil Newbin is probably going to take this one. I heard he was instrumental in, like coaching the other people on the game. And he was the veteran voice actor on Baldur's Gate 3. So I loved the small time that I used Asterion.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't keep Asterion in my party, unfortunately. Um, my personal choice, um, I love Cal Kestis, even though I forgot the name earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love Jedi Survivor. I think Cameron Monaghan is awesome. Um, despite my grief with Final Fantasy 16, Ben Starr was incredible. He did those lines perfectly. Um, no, no shade thrown his way for that game. Um, I don't know. Spider-Man is another one of those games where I didn't play Spider-Man 2, but I mean, if Yuri Lowenthal was anything like he was in Spider-Man 1, I mean, the highest praise I can give him is I felt like he was Spider-Man, you know?
Right.
Um, and Idris Elba is Idris Elba in Cyberpunk, and that's awesome because that man is an international treasure. So, like, if he wins, I would not be upset at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but I think Neil Newbin is going to win this one. All right. Next, best audio design. We've got Alan Wake 2, Dead Space, Hi-Fi Rush, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4.
This one is a tough one for me. I feel like what should seem obvious would be Hi-Fi Rush, considering the entire game is designed around music and sound. But horror is also a genre that makes really good use of audio design. Dead Space, I don't think it's going to go to Dead Space, but I will say when Dead Space first came out on PS3, the audio design of like the creaking spaceship and hearing things in the distance and steam coming from the pipes, it really immersed you in that game and built the suspense and tension and that feeling of loneliness. I think this one's gonna be between Hi-Fi Rush and Alan Wake 2. Obviously, um, I know the game Control has this level in it, or not level, but this area in it where you kind of do this mission that's all like synthwave and has phenomenal sound design. It's one of the coolest quests in the whole game, in my opinion. Um, and I could see Alan Wake 2 having a lot of that really cool, weird audio stuff. Um, I think I'm gonna go with. Man, this is hard. I think I'm gonna go with Alan Wake. I think Alan Wake's gonna be the one, and it's probably gonna deserve it. So I'm gonna pick it for both.
All right. I think there's an argument to be made that any of these could win.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you didn't touch on Spider-Man, but like
Sure.
Spider-Man swinging through the city, hearing the sounds, like
Sure.
um, I know that they built the game around those new Dolby Atmos or whatever, the new Sony thing that they were advertising alongside the Portal. Um, my vote is going for Hi-Fi Rush. I do think I do think Hi-Fi Rush has kind of that like Cuphead theme to it, you know? Like like Cuphead was up against a lot of like big contenders the year that it came out,
Mm-hmm.
and it managed to pick up, I think, sound design and art design.
Right.
So I do think like Hi-Fi Rush being built around the audio, I think that this is Hi-Fi Rush's category.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that your case for Alan Wake 2 almost swayed me, and
Mm-hmm.
it is definitely a contender for this one. But I'm gonna go with Hi-Fi Rush to be
Cool.
different. All right, best score in music.
uh, this is a good one. I think these are all great picks. Ah, man, my bias wants me to say choose. Or okay, I think Final Fantasy 16 is gonna win. The score in that game is phenomenal. Choirs, fully orchestrated, a lot of really cool arrangements of tunes that you're familiar with if you're a fan of the Final Fantasy series, with really cool new music as well. I know Baldur's Gate 3 has amazing music. Hi-Fi Rush obviously has really cool music. It's different. I don't know that Hi-Fi Rush is soundtrack is good enough to win best score. Maybe I'm wrong. Tears of the Kingdom, killer theme song. So good. Super epic. It has jazz segments with saxophone and piano. Really, really good. Um, but I think Final Fantasy 16 is going to take it just because the soundtrack as a whole. Um, but I'm going to give Tears my personal pick and Final Fantasy 7 my prediction.
All right. Um, so I just want to point out it's kind of funny. Like all the other games have composers, directors, and then it just says composed by Nintendo Sound Team for Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
It's kind of funny. But my personal and my pick are going to be Tears of the Kingdom. Um, I think it's
Sick.
going to win this one. Fighting that boss in the Sky Temple, like just the remix of the
Mm.
what's the name of that town where Rivali's from?
Oh, Rito Village. The
Yeah,
Rito
the
Village.
remix
Yeah.
of Rito Village music. Like when those hands sprout out of the ground,
Yeah.
like the amount of anxiety it gave me and the Blood Moon
Sure.
music. I just think that like it's impossible to not say that like it's one of the best like uses of music and
Sure.
like score in a game. Um yeah, Final Fantasy 16, great, great music. Absolute bangers in there. But
Yeah.
I just think overall, like I think I'm throwing it down for Tears of the Kingdom. Baldur's
Right.
Gate 3, memorable in so many ways, but I, you know,
Sure.
I, it's not something that was like front of mind for me. And
I
that might just say how good the game is because I'm sure the score and music's so good that it
right.
everything else just popped even more for me. Yeah.
Right. Right. Totally. Excellent. All right. Next category.
Best art direction.
Oh boy. So nominees for this are Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Lies of P, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Um,
Do you want me to start this time?
yeah, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and start?
All right. So my personal pick, I'll start off with my personal pick. I think Hi-Fi Rush is one of the coolest looking games this year, and I think if it won it, I would be ecstatic for it. Um, but I think just based on like some of the things I've heard, I think that I'm going to throw down for Alan Wake 2 here as the my prediction. Um, I've heard that there's a lot of really cool parts in this game. And usually like photorealism doesn't really, win these awards, but I think some of the interesting design choices that they made really work with the art direction. And I think this is the Alan Wake 2, like it's like their award.
Right.
But Liza P, I do not understand why it's here. Sorry, Liza P. Like it the highest praise I can give it is it it looks really close to a FromSoft game, but it like lacks that character that I think that
Mm-hmm.
the FromSoft games have while making up for like, the graphical fidelity. I feel like Liza P has that same kind of edge to it, but like I just don't think it does it as well.
Sure.
And the HUD's ugly. The HUD is really ugly. So, yeah.
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 Yeah. I think to me the three obvious picks are going to be Hi-Fi Rush, Alan Wake 2 again based off of what people are saying about the game, but also like I I I got to throw some credit to Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It's a beautiful game, extremely vibrant and colorful. They do a lot of really cool stuff artistically through the Wonder Flowers that just warp and change the stage. They ditched that generic look that the new Super Mario Brothers series had been using for a while now, and kind of gave Mario a new, fresh coat of paint, which is very welcome. And I think that game shines for that. But I'm gonna say I I think I'm gonna copy off of you. I think Alan Wake 2 is gonna win this one, and my personal pick is Hi-Fi Rush. I think that game's beautiful. It does a lot of really cool stuff artistically. I've played it and I enjoyed it, and that's not to say that when I play Alan Wake 2 finally, that I might actually be like, no, that was definitely the best art direction. Maybe not. Maybe I'll stand by my Hi-Fi Rush, but as far as right now goes, I'm voting for Hi-Fi Rush as my personal pick and Alan Wake 2 for Game of the Awards
Perfect.
pick.
Yeah, some quick things I just want to say real quick. I feel like if everyone played Super Mario Bros. Wonder on the OLED, I think, like if we're grading it on the OLED, the game is incredible. Tears of the Kingdom is a beautiful game. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
only enhances what they did with Breath of the Wild, which by all accounts is beautiful as well. I just think that out of all of the things that Nintendo did with Tears of the Kingdom, I think this was the one that they took the least risks on. The portion they took the least risk on was the art direction.
Mm-hmm.
I think like everything else in that game shines so much brighter than the art. So,
Yeah.
best narrative. So we've got Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, Final Fantasy 16, and Marvel Spider-Man 2. I'll let you
Baldur's Gate
start.
3, Baldur's Gate 3. I know there's going to be people arguing for Cyberpunk and Alan Wake 2. And probably Spider-Man and Final Fantasy. I think this is going to be, you know, this one might be a little divisive, but I mean, how do you argue against Baldur's Gate 3? It's
You,
massive.
you would mute.
I went mute. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
How
Repeat the
weird.
last. Yeah.
How weird.
You
Okay.
you said
Um,
Spider-Man 2.
yeah, so I all these games have merit, but for me it's like how do you argue with Baldur's Gate 3 winning when it is narratively the most ambitious by a long shot, not even close. Just the amount of choices that you have and interactions that you have in different ways that you can approach the story in this game and how you interact with the characters and add in not just your personal decisions but the way you roll in the game and how that affects the outcomes of your decisions and your choices. It's without a doubt Baldur's Gate 3. And I don't think there's an argument that would change my mind about that personally.
Yeah, you're hearing it now. If Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't win this, I'll eat my hat. Like, yeah.
You heard
I
it
think
here, folks. You heard it
I
here.
think yeah, I think Baldur's Gate 3, yeah, has this one on lock. I think Final Fantasy 16 should get negative votes for
Mm,
narrative. Um, yeah, and I haven't played Spider-Man 2, but I hear like by all accounts it plays it pretty safe with the
right,
narrative. Um, and then I've heard nothing but good things about Alan Wake 2, but it's not Baldur's Gate 3. It
right,
just isn't. And like you said, yeah, just the branching paths, like talking to people and like I'm like, I didn't even experience that. And they're like, oh, did you make this choice? I'm like, the choice that I made at like almost the beginning of the game affected this. Like,
right.
it's insane. Yeah.
Totally.
All right. Let's go to best game direction. And I'll go ahead and kick it off. So we got
Let's do
Alan
it.
Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. And so this one is kind of like up to interpretation because it's awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. Um, I think that there are two games in this category that are absolutely neck and neck for this. I think Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom absolutely has amazing game direction with all of the like different things that you could do, the fuse mechanic, the like just the sheer like insanity of like the things that you can make and the things that you can that should break.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then I also think like we talked about with the narrative structure, it could be interpreted that way with like creative vision and maybe like game direction that like the narrative of Baldur's Gate 3 could be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um my personal pick for this one, I think that Tears of the Kingdom uh personally for me was more like groundbreaking, but I do think Baldur's Gate 3 delivered on all those promises that like a lot of narrative driven games have said for like a long time that they were going to do, where your choices actually matter. So I
Right.
prediction is Baldur's Gate 3, but I would be perfectly happy if Tears of the Kingdom won it too.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right that this is kind of the if any of the categories are 50-50, I feel like this is the one between those two games. They both delivered on impossible promises. The Baldur's Gate 3, the narrative promise, and Tears of the Kingdom, that promise of go anywhere, do anything, and solve anything any way your brain can possibly think of. Um, I'm gonna go with Tears of the Kingdom for this one, for both my prediction and my pick. Um, but I don't think Baldur's Gate is any less deserving. I think the narrative stuff is absolutely incredible, and it's amazing what they've achieved. Um, so I think it's just going to come down to what they're basing it on. The technical marvel of Zelda, like even functioning as a game with the fuse mechanic and the building mechanics, and your ability to basically warp through any terrain should just render the game broken. but it doesn't. Again, Baldur's Gate 3, the narrative, like the amount of intertwining narrative outcomes and decisions and possibilities shouldn't be as impactful as they are. So it's anyone's game. I wouldn't be surprised if Baldur's swept this award show, but I'm gonna predict Zelda for this one.
Nice. Nice. All right. And finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, Game of the Year. We've got Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'll let you start.
Baldur's Gate 3. I think Baldur's and my personal pick is Tears of the Kingdom. Everyone who's watched my channel knows Zelda's my favorite series of all time. I think Tears of the Kingdom blew Breath of the Wild out of the water. It reintroduced some of the staples that we know and love from Zelda that we kind of lost with Breath of the Wild, and it's just I don't know. That game was just a marvel. But Baldur's Gate 3, it's it is nothing to slouch on. It is another marvel of a game. It's a storytelling marvel. It's a multiplayer marvel. It's done so much right, and it is easily best in class of the D&D style RPG games that you can play on PC or console. There's nothing that comes close to that. I think with as far as Tears of the Kingdom goes, it built on everything that we know and love with Breath of the Wild and did it better. And had Tears of the Kingdom been this first new take on Zelda, maybe Tears would be an easy blowout for Game of the Year. But because we do have Breath of the Wild, and this is just a refinement, a very good, a very, very huge refinement on Breath of the Wild, I think Baldur's Gate is got that freshness and that newness that we saw when we first got Breath of the Wild in 2017.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, I agree with you. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win this one. Um, if you had asked me in early August what my game of the year is, I what my game of the year, what the game of the year is, what the game of the generation is going to be, Here's the Kingdom would have been absolutely like the answer. But Baldur's Gate 3 took me by a complete surprise. It's more my style of game. I love like deep RPGs with amazing stories. Um, I mean, I played it beginning to end, and it's like 80 hours in like 2 weeks. I was obsessive. Um, yeah, I mean, this is just an insanely good game. I think that both of them have every right to win Game of the Year. I think
Sure.
Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win Game of the Year. I think if the roles were reversed and Baldur's Gate 3 had released first and Tears of the Kingdom released after, I think we'd be having maybe
Mm,
probably a different conversation. But I
yeah,
think
totally,
Recency Bias is going to win out on this one. So,
totally.
yeah.
All right. And I will
Um,
add, look at this lineup of games for Game of the Year and how killer the orchestra is going to be. We're going to get
right.
RE4, Zelda, Mario, Alan Wake, Baldur's Gate music all this year.
Yeah.
Really, really
It,
cool. Oh, and just so you guys know, like, Colin and I, we used to go every year to the Game Awards. So this is going to be our first time doing a follow-up show. We're not going this year. We'll be streaming from home. But we will be doing a follow-up show next week and, talking about our predictions and see who got the most points on that. But yeah, that is that for our predictions.
all right. So I just want to do a quick lightning round with you. Just simple yes or no questions.
Mm,
To see if will they or won't they.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go ahead and start for time's sake. Okay. So Hades 2, you think we'll get a trailer release date at the Game Awards this year?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. GTA 6, is that coming to the Game Awards or are they going to do their own thing?
Oh man, that's a tough one because that is a huge pull. I'm gonna say not at the Game Awards. That is a huge. If there's a company that's gonna grab that game, I think it's going to be Microsoft because they have the money to, and they
Right.
probably want to more than anyone. I'm going to say no.
No. Okay. Hellblade 2 release date at the Game Awards.
I'm brain farting. What's Hellblade? Hellblade 2. Oh, oh. No, no, I don't think so.
All right. Um, Dragon Age Dreadwolf at the Game Awards, not at the Game Awards.
Not at the Game Awards.
All right.
That
Mass
game
Effect
doesn't
4.
exist.
All
Which
right.
one?
Mass Effect 4.
Game Awards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Death Stranding 2.
Game Awards. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll see it.
Will Hideo Kojima show up?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Idris Elba, will he be there at the Game Awards? Yes or no?
I think he'll be there in a video form, but not actually there. If that
Not,
counts.
yeah, we'll just put not present. Okay. Weird movie tie-in game to end the show. Yes or no?
Um, I'm gonna say no this year. I'm gonna say
Okay.
no.
Uh,
And that's my prayers too. My prayers are no.
will Nintendo have a presence at the Game Awards for like as far as like first party uh type of like announcements?
I think they will. I mean, the big hope is yes, and I know we're to be good on time. I'll say that I think Metroid is a great presenter for the Game Awards. I think it fits. I don't think we'd get Prime 4. I think it would be maybe a 2 or 3 remaster or bundle.
All right. And for this last question, I just need a number. How many celebrity cameos?
I'm gonna go with solid 5.
Solid five. Do you think Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal?
Yeah, who knows? We might see Jack Black or Anya Taylor Joy. They were in the Mario movies, or even Chris Pratt.
Yeah. All right. Cool. That's all of the questions I have for the lightning round. We can move on to our next topic.
All right. And we'll go through this one quickly, but this final topic for the evening is going to be our GameBird Classic top 10 games of the year. Colin, do you want to explain the rules for everyone? How this
Yeah.
worked?
Yeah. So Cameron and I put together two of our own personal top tens. I aggregated the data, so basically our 10th best game of the year got 1 point each. Our ninth best and so on got two, and then all the way up to 10 points for our number one game of the year. So I just added our scores together, and the games with the top 10 games with the highest points went on to our GameBird Classic
Mm.
or GameBird Weekly Game of the Year. Yeah. So I will go ahead and go over our results. So um, tied for eighth with see where are my points system. Tied for eight with 5 points. We have Remnant 2, which we've talked about quite a bit. Sea of Stars, and then Paranormasight, which was that visual novel I talked about earlier with the 90s aesthetic. If you like visual novels, go check that one out. It's a short, maybe 12-hour puzzle solving, really fun whodunit type of game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in seventh place, we have Trails of Reverie with 6 points. So a brief synopsis of the Trails series. Trails series is a series of games that span across, I think, starting on the PSP all the way to PS5. Some of the games are available on Steam. There's three different storylines that all come together to meet in basically like a Marvel's Endgame type of experience
Mm-hmm.
that came out this year. Trails and Reverie is amazing, but like if you're looking to get in on the ground floor of these type of like a really good RPG series, the Trails in the Sky series is kind of a little more archaic and old. But like if you're looking for like a modern kind of JRPG, you can definitely start with what's called the Trails of Cold Steel series.
Mm.
And they're all available on current consoles. Yeah, but those are great. Uh, Coming in at number six, we have Pikmin 4. I don't know if you want to say a few things because this was
Yeah, no, Pikmin 4 was easily one of my favorite games that came out this year. I'm a big Pikmin fan already. I feel like this one really refined the series and made it more accessible to people who might not like traditional Pikmin. It's super cute and charming and has character. It's has a more interesting story, way better mechanics. You get a new camera perspective that really changes things up. And yeah, I mean, for my vote, it was much higher on my list. But yeah, Pikmin 4. Can't say enough good about it. In fact, I'd actually rate Pikmin 4 for me personally higher than Mario Wonder. Another game that I absolutely love.
Yeah. So speaking of Mario Wonder, at number five, we've got Mario Wonder. This appeared on both our lists. Um, I think it's, goes without saying, it's an amazing game.
Mm-hmm.
It's about time Nintendo changed up the formula.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was like, much needed, and it worked. And they, I don't know how Nintendo does it, but sometimes their subtitles like really describe what you're getting. And you got a
Yeah.
lot of wonder with this one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't think of a more fitting title for it. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to
No,
say.
Mario Wonder is amazing. Play it. Play it with the online multiplayer aspect because it really enhances the experience.
Yeah. So this one made it pretty far up on our list. Mortal Kombat 1 at number four. I think we've talked about enough about this one. Like, we both love the story. Yeah, the gameplay is incredible. I think like it's definitely the more casual fighting game this year, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
Um,
and getting a story mode with that much care and detail is. I mean, I'm obviously a huge Mortal Kombat fan. You can see behind me. There's a MK2 little arcade one-up cabinet. Mortal Kombat 1 was just a delight.
all right, coming in at number three, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Um, I know that you've gotten maybe like 4 or 5 hours into this game and you're really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've finished this game. The ending is amazing. It's probably one of the best Star Wars stories ever told. Disney should be taking notes because yeah, this is how you tell a Star Wars story. There is a part in this game that probably deserves coolest part in a video game this year. I know Alan Wake 2 apparently has some really cool parts, but like I was just smiling like from ear to ear during this
Mm-hmm.
one part in this game. I cannot wait for you to get to it. It just blew my mind.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't think of good things about it. I don't know if you have anything else to follow up.
Um, the game's awesome. It's visually beautiful. The best Star Wars fighting has ever felt in a video game. I absolutely loved Fallen Order. I thought it was the best modern Star Wars story next to Rogue One. And this one seems to be telling an even grander and bigger story. And I can't wait to see everything that has to offer. The music's phenomenal. The cast is great, just like the first game. So I'm loving it.
Nice. And then tied for number one, I think everyone can figure out what they are based on what we've talked about today. Baldur's Gate 3, which appeared number one on my list, and Tears of the Kingdom, which appeared number one on Cameron's list,
Hmm.
and vice versa, number two on my list for Tears of the Kingdom, and number two on his list for Baldur's Gate 3. So,
Yep.
yeah, these games are absolutely incredible. They both deserve Game of the Year. I mean, if you could do Games of the Year, they should be, you know, both
Right.
getting
Yeah, it's
um,
like we said, these are games of the generation. These are games that people are going to be trying to mimic and copy for the next 10 years. And when people look back, when we're in the PS6 and Xbox Series 1XSX, whatever they call it, and the Switch 2, like when we talk about what made the last generation great, these are two of the games that are going to come up first, I guarantee you.
absolutely. Yeah, incredible games. Yeah, wow.
Well,
Well,
awesome. That covers our topics for the night. Thank you guys so much for watching. We've got a lot of good stuff coming soon. Again, eventually we're gonna move to a live show. We got a cool logo coming, an intro. We're going to work out the kinks. This is rough. This probably went on a bit longer than we want to go in the future, but I had a really good time discussing all this stuff with you, Colin, and I'm excited to see what you and I come up with in the future. If you guys enjoy this content, please hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, and sound off on the comment section below. Let us know your favorite games of the year. Let us know your predictions, and let us know if you agree that this was the best year in gaming. And with that, anything you want to add, Colin?
Yeah, and absolutely. If you think we're idiots, let us know in the comments. Smash the dislike button. Let us know. I'm happy to open spirited debate on any of these things. So, yeah.
All right, guys. We will see you next week. This is GameBird Weekly signing out. Peace.